The majority of people who go to university use a student loan to fund the tuition fees and living cost, with 96% of all eligible people in 2018 using student finance. But what about the 44,680 students who didn't use a student loan that year? Was that the correct financial decision for them to make? Probably not, and I will explain why in this video. So while it is rare, there are plenty of scenarios where people may find themselves in a position where they can pay their university tuition fees up front, whether they receive a large sum of money through inheritance, they have wealthy relatives willing to pay the fees for them, or they have worked and saved money diligently before going to university. The latter actually applies to me, as I clocked up over 2 years of professional work before starting my degree. Student loan debt is the best debt you will ever get in your life. Your repayments are dependent on your salary, which is 9% of any income earned above £27,295. Due to this, it's actually better off viewing the loan as a graduate tax rather than debt. But considering it as a debt, the interest rate is actually relatively low, and after 30 years, if you haven't paid the debt off, it gets wiped. The vast majority of people with a student loan will not pay it off in full and have it written off. The government estimates that 75% of students currently using student loans will not pay it off in full after 30 years. However, other organisations estimate that this is higher, with the Institute for Fiscal Studies estimating that around 83% of graduates will be left with some of their debt written off. So only the top earners will pay off all their student debt, in which surely it only makes sense to pay the tuition fees up front if you're going to be a top earner then. Otherwise you will simply be losing money by not taking the loan. But it is almost impossible to know if you will be in the top 20% of earners. Even if you think there's a great chance that you will, there are many unknowns about the future that could have a material impact on your future earnings, whether it's the macro events with the economy or your personal situation. So paying the fees up front is taking a massive bet on yourself, which, for the vast majority of people, doesn't pay off. But what if there is absolutely no doubt that you will be a top earner, and you have the money required for 3 years of tuition, which is £27,750? You are still probably going to be better off taking a student loan and investing your money. To see why, it's important to understand how the interest charged to the loan works. While studying, the interest is set as RPI plus 3%, which currently would be 5.6%. Then, once you graduate, the interest is dependent on your income. If you earn less than £27,295, it is just RPI, which is 2.6%, and then it scales up to RPI plus 3% when your income gets to £49,130, at which point it stays constant. Even if you're going to be a top earner, there's a good chance that you will be earning under 49k for at least a few years while on a graduate role, and so have an interest rate much lower than the max. But even if you go straight into earning the big bucks and so get the max interest rate the entire time, you are better off putting your money to work through investments rather than in the loan. The stock market historically returns around 7% per year when averaged over a long period of time. This can be achieved simply by investing in a few broad market ETFs. The return is 1.4% greater than the max interest rate on the loan each year. To demonstrate how much better off it is to take the loan and invest the money that would otherwise pay the tuition fees, I will walk through an example of the absolute worst case scenario. In this example, a person's loan is at the max interest rate the entire time, and they eventually pay off the loan after 30 years, making the final payment on the month that the loan would have been written off if there was any left. The 30 years starts 4 years after starting your course when you become eligible to begin paying off the loan, so 34 years after starting the degree. For simplicity, in this example, I'm keeping all the variables constant, so the interest at 5.6%, the threshold at £27,295, and the salary of a person at £52,332.33 per year, which is the salary that means that they pay off the largest possible amount of loan and interest. It's a very unrealistic model, but it's just to prove my point. After 34 years, the total payment by the person is £67,604.84. As this person got a student loan, it meant that they could use their £27,750 that would have been going towards tuition to invest in the stock market. £27,750 invested and left in broad market ETFs, achieving around a 7% return per year for 34 years, would be worth £276,892.65. A huge difference. This is the worst possible scenario, and the person will still be almost 210k better off by using the student loan compared with if he just paid the tuition fees up front. If you're surprised by the size of the difference, then hit the like button. Of course, in that example, I did not include a maintenance loan. I did this just for simplicity, as the maintenance loan size varies quite a lot depending on your individual situation. But fundamentally, the result that it is much better to use a student loan does not change. Of course, there is a moral dilemma associated with taking the loan. Borrowing the money when you don't need to, that you may never repay, might seem wrong to some people. Ultimately, any loan that gets written off is picked up by the UK taxpayer. I cannot talk about what your morals may or may not be. That varies from person to person. All I can talk about is the financial side. That wraps up the video, guys. Comment down below if you have any video requests or questions regarding managing your finances as a student. I am currently a student myself, studying finance, and I'm more than happy to provide insights into what I do. Have a good day, guys.